Hello, everyone. We wanted to bring you an update from Robert Benor about the hearings yesterday in North Carolina with the raw milk being a threat. And actually, I wanted to ask you also, Robert, if you knew anything about the pesticide ruling and all of that. I don't know if you hung around for all of that. But I know there were several very important aspects to this legislation that was proposed. And the one that we're most concerned about, of course, is the raw milk. So we wanted to have you give us a rundown and an update, if you would.
Yeah, so I think that, I think first and foremost, herd shares are at this moment safe. So that was the positive that came out of the Judiciary Committee.
Okay.
The negative is that they basically switched and they said herd shares are okay, but now pet milk is going to be illegal. It happened really quickly and people were really confused. It's always it's always a
You
good
said,
feeling when everybody's confused, because then you feel like,
okay.
oh, cool, like maybe I'm dumb, but everybody around me is too.
Yeah. I remember yesterday you said it was a little confusing. So how did that even happen? I mean, we of course think we should be able to have access to whatever food we want anyway. And if we can buy raw lettuce and raw meat and all of that, that actually does often make people sick. Why can't we choose milk? But you were a little surprised and confused because everything flipped from herd shares being in trouble, but maybe pet food. Now it's flipped the other way. And I'm sure they're
Well,
wanting. What are you
the
thinking?
interesting thing is that when we started this, so when I started calling people on Friday, last Friday, the vibe was like, well, they can't touch pet milk. So like, that's not going anywhere because there's a state certification to sell pet milk. So the state has already said
Oh,
that pet milk is okay,
okay.
right? Like, and B, you're giving it to an animal.
Mhm.
So like, why would they ban that? And somehow none of that mattered. So what we think, here's the kind of like how the events went down. When they started reading the farm bill, when they got to the part about raw milk, there wasn't even a discussion. They had already made an amendment to allow herd shares. It was a
Oh,
discussion and an agreement that happened behind closed doors with the senators and the members of that committee. Now,
okay.
I want to talk about the positive of that. All
Yeah.
the senators that I spoke to said that a huge part of why this happened and why it happened so fast is because of the absolute deluge of personal emails and calls that they got. They were
Good.
blown away. They said usually they get a lot of copy paste emails. They get a lot of like change.org stuff. They said
Yeah.
it is very rare that they get so many personal anecdotal emails of people supporting an item. So that's a really big deal. And
Wow.
our whole community should congratulate themselves for really pushing and putting that personal touch on it.
Absolutely. And we talked about that yesterday. I feel like that is super important. But again, like we also discussed yesterday briefly, just to contact is better than nothing at all.
100%.
But they heard from many people. Weston A. Price had put out an info alert to all of the people on their email list, and that I think in the entire state. Of
Yep.
course, we did. Many others, Reverence Farm, lots of other people shared it, so it worked
Yeah.
because
Yeah. It was
people
amazing.
spoke up. Man, this is our lesson. I want people to remember that our lawmakers need to hear from us about important things.
Yeah.
Uh,
So when that happened, that also means when they made this backdoor deal, that also, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I know that like backdoor deal has a connotation. It's
yeah,
just they they heard our message and they decided they weren't even going to mess around with it. They were just going to take care of it beforehand.
Good.
Now, when that happened, for support for the herd share movement, which is, I think, maybe who they heard from most.
Yeah.
They said, okay, for us to pass this thing and protect the herd shares, we've got to throw a bone to Troxler. He has to have a little bit of a win here,
Yeah.
so that he
That
can go
is,
back to his dairy co-op constituents and say, hey guys, did the best I could.
yeah.
So I think that is most likely what happened. Now,
Yeah.
I am also of the understanding that the pet milk thing is going to be hard to push through the rest of these committees, the pet milk ban. It just doesn't
Okay.
make a lot of sense.
I
So,
know it doesn't.
and
So
that
it's
does
not
not
a
mean that
done
we should
deal.
stop. That doesn't mean we should take our foot off the gas.
No.
But I think that this is a wink and a nod to Troxler. And then once this goes to the House Ag Committee, I think it's going to get shut down.
So it's not a done deal. There still
No,
is
not at all.
definite.
There's so many steps left.
Okay. Good. That's good to hear. So people just need to be getting in touch still with, do they need to talk to anyone in particular on the agriculture committee or just in general?
Yeah. So what we want to do now, since we have plenty of time, it still has to go through 2 or 3 small committees in the Senate, which I spoke to the rep from Winston A. Price, and what she said to me is people are obviously welcome to go to these meetings, to contact these people on these committees, but these are not committees where things get done. These are like rules and procedures committees, ways and meansy kind of things, just real making of the sausage kind of stuff.
Okay.
The committee where things really get done is the House Agricultural Committee.
Okay.
Now, we're really lucky because Jeff McNeely is a co-chair of that committee.
All right. I
And
saw his name on the list, I think,
yeah,
yesterday. Yeah.
so Jeff McNeely was the representative who initially contacted, I think, a few of us dairy farmers to let us know what was going on. He's really on this thing. He really cares. He also has really good style. I don't know if anybody saw him yesterday, but he was wearing a yellow seersucker suit. So,
Ah.
so you got to appreciate the little things in life.
Yep.
But absolutely, contacting him, contacting the other folks on the House Ag Committee. So it's chaired by Jimmy Dixon, who's a Republican from the 4th District, and Michael Ray, who is a Democrat from the 27th District.
Okay.
And so we can contact these guys. We can contact all the members of the committee. Also, now that we have more time, I think the idea is to set up meetings with them.
Yes.
And if you successfully set up a meeting with them, it's probably a really good idea to contact somebody that's more of a lobbyist to attend with you. So, somebody from Winston A. Price or somebody from, somebody raw milk who's got some oomph behind them,
Yes.
other than just a producer or consumer. Not that we can't do this stuff on our own, but, I think it's really important to have as many minds working on this as we can.
Agreed. And I'm sure that within Weston A. Price, Pete Kennedy, and there are several others who do lobbying and legal work. So I'm sure that they'll be on it, and I'll keep you informed with what I hear, and we'll share with others. But this is good. I'm very encouraged.
I do
As I know
feel
you
much
are.
more positive than I did a couple days ago,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's really scary, obviously, for people whose businesses are built around pet milk.
Yeah.
It is especially unfair to them because not only are they doing something that's currently legal, but they went through the trouble of getting like certified to do it.
Hmm.
Like pet milk is a certifiable thing in the state of North Carolina. So, it's like if your parents said you could have ice cream for dessert and then you start eating ice cream and all of a sudden they started yelling at you and you're like, I don't, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I didn't make this up.
Right, exactly. So, well, hopefully all of this will go away, but it won't happen uh, without those in charge, those making the rules, hearing from all of us. So we're going to
Yeah.
again encourage our listeners to get in touch with their lawmakers. Now, can you send me a list of the key people to hear from, the people that we should be contacting? And we can put that
Yeah.
up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll send you the list of the House Ag Committee members. And it's really just about keeping the pressure up.
Yep.
And again, those really personal calls and emails. I had a secretary of one of the senators say to me, I got an email from a kid. She said, I've never gotten an email from a kid. They were talking about how
Oh,
they love raw milk ice cream and they love ice cream and they're not going to be able to have it anymore if raw milk isn't there. So, these are really important. It really changes people's minds.
yeah. Do you think that it helps also to have people from surrounding states contact these lawmakers?
You know,
Oftentimes it does help, but
I'm I'm not sure if identifying yourself as, hey, I'm from South Carolina makes a
right.
difference. But if you live in South Carolina, nothing is stopping you from
Yeah,
calling a North Carolina representative and saying, "Hey,
right.
what are you doing?" Like they have no idea where you're from. So
Yep. And yes, on a federal level, you are registering your name and your address and that kind of thing. So maybe not in this case. So Tennessee, Virginia. I was just in Southern Virginia
yeah,
last
we can
a
all
week.
support each other by calling and emailing. I'm a
Yeah.
concerned citizen. I am a supporter of raw milk. Um, right now, we're trying to find people who actually feed their pets milk and have seen a
Yeah.
significant health difference in their pet because of the milk. So
I
we are
do
not,
actually.
yeah,
I
we're
I
not.
I feed them. Yeah.
So I think one of the hard things for people who feel really passionately about the freedom of this movement as a American human being is
Mhm.
that they want to make it about that. And I understand that that's important, but that's not what the law is about. The law is about feeding this to animals. And
Yes.
so the best way to manipulate the system is to find great anecdotes of animals benefiting from this raw milk. So we
Okay.
have to remember that we live within a system and we're just trying to survive in it. And
Yeah.
so the best way to survive in it is to think like the system and manipulate the system so that you can keep living the best life that you want to live.
I agree. Wise words. That is exactly what we have to do. Unfortunately, in today's world, that's just what we have to do. Hopefully, someday these things won't be issues, but for the moment it is. Now, just as an aside, did you hear anything about the proposed pesticide bans?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I spoke with Senator Chitlick this morning, and I mentioned to her that it felt a bit like a smokescreen, like the
Mhm.
raw milk thing was thrown in there to drum up a lot of passion, so that people weren't paying attention to
Yeah.
the pesticide thing. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but it didn't get a lot of attention. It passed through. There was a really smart woman who came. I ran into her at one of the senator's offices where she was lobbying for consumers. She's not a lobbyist. She's
Okay.
a toxicologist, and she was just concerned with what was going on. And she spoke very passionately to the committee about it. Um, Again, this stuff has to go through the House Ag Committee, so there's still a possibility that something can be done.
Okay.
But as of right now, it looks like that's going through. So nothing got changed
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that it definitely took a back seat. Everyone who was there for raw milk,
Yeah.
and
And there were
understandably, That
Yeah.
affects your life multiple times a day. So
Yep.
it makes sense. So the
Yeah.
pesticide thing is important, and I hope that it gets the attention that it needs.
Yeah. Well, maybe people can write 2 separate emails, make 2 separate phone calls so
All
that,
of the emailing.
yep, and just keep on doing it. Well, it's working. And Robert, I'm really glad to hear that there is some good news instead of the bad news that we thought might happen. It's good to know that people
Yeah.
showed up. They showed up in different ways and it had an effect. So that's
Yeah.
what we want. That's why we
And
have
I
this system of government. We do.
and I want to remind people that being a pessimist is free. You risk nothing being a pessimist. Being an optimist can cost you things. Be an
Yep.
optimist, be positive. Let's work towards the future that we know we deserve and we know is out there.
Yeah.
We're going to, just because we have this little setback about pet milk, it does not mean that a week or two from now, it can't just turn on a dime. If we work hard and we have our voices heard, there's no reason that this thing is going to go through.
Yeah. So the lawmakers need to continue to hear from their constituents.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, I think it's really important across the board that they hear not just about the freedom issue, but about the health issues, and that on pesticides as well as milk. But
Yeah.
we have a lot of good testimonials about how raw milk has helped various people for various reasons. We can concentrate on the pets for this next segment, but yeah, we need to be putting those stories out there as well. So thank you for saying that. That's super important.
Yeah, and I'll send you the information for the woman from Winston Price that I was speaking with who asked for those testimonials.
Yes.
So let's
Do you know
flood
who
her
you,
inbox too.
right? Do you know who you spoke with there?
Elizabeth.
Okay, that's
She
what I
was
thought.
she was in Raleigh yesterday with us. She was really
Good.
helpful. I also just want to say yesterday, although it was exhausting and I feel like I had like lightning running through my veins, like when I was speaking in front of the committee, like
I'll
I felt like I was
bet.
gonna vomit. But it was so great to meet everybody. It was so awesome to see all these producers, all these consumers. There was a person there that was only there because he had put together a petition. He wasn't a producer. He just loves it and worked really
Mhm.
hard and put together a big petition for us. I mean, this is the
Good.
kind of community that people talk about in like an idyllic way. It exists. It's here. It's us. It's great.
Yeah, instead of people just talking about, oh, I wish this would change or that shouldn't be that way, people are actually involved in making the changes that need to be made.
Yeah.
That's how our system works.
Yeah.
Instead of only hearing from lobbyists from industries. So we got to keep that up across the board.
Absolutely. Listen, we're farmers. We're hard workers. There's no way we're not going to work hard on this.
Right. I know. I think farmers and mothers are the hardest workers of all.
Yeah, and when you double that up and you get moms who are farming, that's a
Yes.
serious.
Yeah.
That's not
I
somebody you
have
want to mess with.
no, I did it just on a home scale, but I have friends who are moms working on their farms, and wow, yeah, hard work.
Yeah,
But we're
strong
glad
back.
that you're doing it, and we're glad that you're enjoying it, and we're glad that you are safe for now. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep it that way. So, yep. Okay. Well, Robert, thank you. And if there are any changes, I know you'll let me know. Anything that we need to
Absolutely.
do, let me know. Weston A. Price will put it out. We'll put out the information, and yeah, we'll keep on running with it. So, thank you very much. And everyone, stay tuned.
Thanks.
Yeah.